And this is my face now, 3 years after getting that tumor removed from my head. There's definitely been some improvement. I can close my eye. I can almost smile properly, almost. But it's been a long and frustrating journey for me, so I thought today I would just share with you all my experience with facial paralysis, partial facial paralysis, what I've been through, mistakes I've made, and just generally what I've learned. If you find yourself here because you're experiencing some form of facial paralysis, please leave us a comment. Tell us your thoughts. Feel free to share your story. Help somebody else dealing with this not feel so alone. I often felt alone dealing with this stuff. But we're not alone. Like, in America, something like 40,000 people each year experience facial paralysis due to Bell's palsy, for example. It should be said that there's a variety of reasons that one can end up with facial paralysis. Bell's palsy is the most common form of facial paralysis, but things like stroke, disease, head trauma, tumors can all be things that cause facial paralysis. Some permanent, some temporary. So if you ever feel like a numbness in your face, or like tingling and like the feelings going away, or even an inability to move some part of your face, go and talk to a doctor ASAP. Now, my tumor was caused by an acoustic neuroma, also known as a vestibular schwannoma. This rare tumor grows on the main vestibular nerve that leads from your inner ear to your brain. And mine was so comfy in my head that it decided to build itself around all of the nerves that lead to my face. That's this damage. Oh, if you're new here, welcome. If you're curious about my tumor issues, there's 2 playlists here on my channel dedicated to it. One of those playlists is about some rehabilitation I recently received at a clinic here in Germany. I'll be making reference to it in this video, so feel free to go and catch up with the rest of us by watching those videos first if you need to. I learned a lot at that German clinic, and I'm going to share some of that information today here with you. But if you were following that whole rehabilitation trip I took, you may remember the vibrator therapy that I oh so much enjoyed. Thanks to some of you folks, I went and picked up this little gadget. Now, I know I had talked about getting the device that that therapist had used on me, which was just one of those simple little mini massagers that you like turn on like that and it vibrates and you can hit an afflicted area. But when I was searching around and just looking at what's available in the way of facial massagers, this little thingy here caught my eye because it doesn't just have that little massage head that I want to stimulate the little nerves and stuff in my face, but it claims that it has a latex soft sponge for eye and cheek massaging. And that's precisely what I do. And I just thought, well, that sounds kind of nice, especially because I am still working on this eye. While I can close it, it still does give me some issues and feels, for example, like it doesn't close here sometimes. So yeah, what I'm saying is, I just thought this seemed like a nifty little device. Thanks to those of you who gave me some tips in my PayPal. We'll try this out today. But first, let's start at the beginning. When I came home from the hospital, all of this side of my face felt very heavy and was drooping. I couldn't close my eye. I needed a straw to drink. Had a hard time keeping stuff in here. I was drooling. I remember this nostril was like more kind of shut. And I was really, really desperate out of all the issues I had to close this eye. Or at least just be able to control the lid just a little bit. It looked so creepy, just like. And the ear, nose, and throat doctor who had originally found my doctor had little to no interest in providing me with any sort of aftercare. I mean, he wasn't just not really interested in my vertigo problems and simply wanted to concentrate on getting me back to work. Forget it if I even tried to bring up anything going on here. Like, I mentioned my drooling and my eye and how annoying that was when trying to sleep, and he very swiftly shot me a very sharp look and informed me, "You can work with all of that." And the conversation was over. So I went home and I did all of my own research. I looked online and I found all kinds of information, first on facial paralysis, what it means, what causes it, how long it can last. But more, I started looking for exercises. What can I do? How can I try to start making this stuff move again? And between what I found online and some tips I got from a friend of mine that does physical therapy, I started working like a crazy lady, just trying to close this eye. But this was all wrong. First off, that doctor was wrong to not just not inform me about this facial paralysis issues it can cause, or even offer me any sort of like speech therapy. Here's why. You see, what I was doing is I was looking in a mirror and I was doing these facial exercises that you can find online. And as I said, my goal was to desperately get this eye to close. And so every day, over and over, very often, and slightly aggressively, I was just concentrating on this eye while looking in a mirror and trying to close it. Did you see some movement here? That's because I was doing this all wrong. But when I first started doing these things, it was like I was doing them over and over for weeks, and I felt like I wasn't seeing any progress. But eventually I had moments where like it felt like, if you can understand this, it felt like my eyelid wanted to move. I'm staring in the mirror and it wasn't moving, but it felt like it was trying, like on the inside. And eventually, after weeks, I was able to get it to close. And with any improvement I've seen, this has been the trend that other people notice it before I notice it. And it's all very slow moving. Don't forget the nerves in the face only grow like a millimeter a year. But yeah, I learned at that clinic 3 years after that tumor got removed that I had trained wrong. Basically, I have a nerve here that thinks it has to strain whenever I want to close this eye. I trained my face wrong. I was doing it too aggressively, and I was only thinking, close eye by any means necessary. And that was a mistake because I was pulling on every power I could in my face to just get that thing to close. Now my doctors want to treat this with a little shot of Botox in my neck so that for a few months that area is unable to move, and the hopes is that I will retrain my face to properly each area that I want to move, that it moves by itself and I'm not straining. Another reason that was all wrong was, here I am 3 years later and I find myself in a therapy session at this clinic, and the guy starts talking about the risk with facial paralysis of little particles of food, even just crumbs if you will, getting lost in your mouth and being a choking hazard. Yeah, so food can get lodged, lost if you will, in the dead, numb corners of your mouth when you have facial paralysis. Just be aware, it's a possibility. The risk is that you later accidentally inhale it. I didn't even think about it, but in fairness, I was thinking about a lot of stuff since this tumor was found. Again, these are all good reasons to talk to your doctor if you have facial paralysis. It's important to be informed and not make things worse. Don't be like me. And if your doctor isn't interested in talking about this with you, then I highly recommend that you seek a second opinion. Or do like I did and dump him like a bad boyfriend. Next. I learned at that clinic that when working on these facial exercises, trying to retrain your face, it's important to stay calm, be relaxed, try to move the one specific area, whether it be your lips or your nose or your eyes. Try to just concentrate on that specific area at that moment and try to just ever so gently make them move with the other side of your face, and don't be afraid to use your fingers to help. And I find personally a mirror very helpful. Before I had that therapy at that clinic, I didn't realize I should use my fingers to help guide whatever I'm trying to move. I don't know, I guess I thought it seemed like cheating. But now you see my eyebrow still doesn't want to move at all. So when I'm doing the exercises related to my eyebrows, like trying to make them look mean, I'll use my finger to help guide it, hoping it's reteaching it. Reteaching my brain, reteaching everything in here. That's the hope. I also learned that it's a good idea to stimulate these nerves in your face before you do these facial exercises. There's a variety of ways that you can do this. And if I may say so, some of them feel really good. So like, for example, let's just say I wanted to work on my smile, which, by the way, I've seen quite a bit of improvement in that over 3 years. So one of the cheap and easy ways I could stimulate the area before I start doing the facial exercises is just tap. Just tap, 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 tap. So right now my goal is I'm going to try to move this part right here that's still kind of dead. I'm going to tap it, and then I'm going to try. And when it doesn't move exactly like this side, I help guide it. So, tap, 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 tap. Guide it. Another way you can stimulate the muscles in your face is with ice. You can just take a little bit of ice. The guy at the clinic I was at made himself like a little popsicle. And just feel it. Feel it all on the area. Get it nice and tingly cold. Important is you're stimulating it. You're feeling those things you want to activate and make move again. And then go at it. I'm not a big fan of the ice. I don't like cold. But what I am a big fan of was the time that the speech therapist looked at me and said, okay, now I'm going to get the vibrator. And he pulled out his little mini massager and he stimulated the muscles with that. I think we'll go with low. Got a little massager head on it. And I'm just going to go for which area I'm going to work on. So I want to work on... Oh, it does feel nice. I'm not going to lie, that feels good. So, but like I was saying, stimulate it. And then try to move that specific area without straining, like in my case, the neck. The hope is after a long period of time, you'll see some improvement. But of course, this is again depending on why you have facial paralysis, what it was caused by. Talk to your doctor. So for the variety of exercises, you can search yourself online for things like speech therapy or oral motor exercises, or in German, Mundmotorik. And you'll find these very helpful facial expressions and movements that you can do to work on retraining your face. They're exercises just like raise your eyebrows, scrunch up your nose, bite your upper lip, bite your underlip. Even move your tongue inside, like to the one cheek and then to the other. Or the one that I hate the most, which is they tell you to fill your cheeks up with air, and I can't do it at all. If I don't hold my lip though. So at the clinic that I went to, combined with all of the information I read online, it seemed to be recommended to do these once or twice a day. Like, pick out 5 of the exercises and do them 10 times each. And again, I personally recommend doing them in front of a mirror. I feel it helps a lot. Pay attention to what seems sometimes like your feeble attempts at symmetry, and don't be afraid to use your fingers to guide whatever you're trying to retrain to move. Just to recap, stimulate, don't overstimulate, concentrate on that little area you're trying to move, and try not to strain other parts of your face when trying to move it. Don't be afraid to help guide it gently, not pushing it hard. Gently guide. One other silly little mistake I made that I feel is worth mentioning is one thing I had a tendency to do since I had that operation and I came out with facial paralysis was I tended to sort of brush my hair over this side of my head, sort of more over this side of my face. Now, in fairness, I did this actually for a variety of reasons. I mean, clearly it was an attempt for me to try to hide my slightly deformed face and what I call my creepy eye, but also the sun. Now, I mean, yeah, I wear sunglasses, but I mean, I was kind of using my hair as like a curtain, you know, when my eye wasn't closing completely. What I'm getting at is I have long, thick, and heavy hair. And if you also have this and you happen to have long, thick, and heavy hair, that constantly putting the hair over to this side of the face. For me, I'm also dealing with being deaf in one ear as well as having a ringing. So this heavy hair more on one side of my head and straining my neck to hear people, I started to realize it's causing neck issues. One of my viewers even pointed it out in the comment, and I was like, you are so right. So I'm just throwing that in there. If you're dealing with facial paralysis, think about that. You don't need neck problems on top of all of this, right? And if you're dealing with all of this, like, I understand it can be a real adjustment. Looking different, knowing some people will stare, some people will say stupid things. At least 5 people just matter-of-factly assumed I had a stroke and made comments about the stroke that I never had. Don't ever assume someone's disability, folks. But what I'm saying is I understand how this can mess with your self-confidence, especially if you're drooling or you can't even eat something in front of somebody because eventually something's going to fall out of your mouth, or you're conscious of your ever so creepy, ever staring eye and how it just looks into complete strangers' souls with not ever blinking. It can all feel sort of embarrassing at times. To this I say, talk to someone about it. Talk about it in general. I personally choose to poke fun at it. It's how I handle things. Like, I'll do the dramatic drooling sound effect while wiping my face. Or just talk about my stupid face, calling it my stupid face, and say it's being a stupid jerk. It's just my way of dealing with it. I try to laugh about it. And having others feel comfortable enough to laugh with me about it feels better than pity. But if you're dealing with facial paralysis, and there's forms of it out there that are much worse than what I have and what I've gone through, and you're having a hard time dealing with it, do not be afraid or ashamed to talk to a professional, like a therapist. Because while some jerks, like that one doctor I was dealing with it, will try to tell you it's nothing, it is an adjustment, and it is something to deal with, and it is something to wrap your head around, and it does affect a couple different things in your life. So I'm just saying, I am so thankful that I do have a therapist that I can talk to about all of my issues together, and how they can weigh heavy on your head sometimes. But then again, I'm just an honest believer that if the whole world got therapy, we would live in a much better world. Having a professional help you sort through the issues and look at things maybe from another perspective can be very, very helpful. There ain't no shame in trying to make a better you. And sometimes we need professionals to help us with that. I'm still, 3 years later, learning how to deal with multiple issues, and not just how to deal with them, but also how to accept them, how to accept the new me. So don't take anything I say in this video as gold over what a doctor would say. Always talk to a doctor if you're dealing with any of these issues and seeking guidance. Don't go to a YouTuber for that. I don't know how much more, if any, improvement I will have in regards to my facial paralysis, but I am going to continue with my facial exercises. For me, it's been like about wanting a lot, but expecting very little, so that I'm surprised with what little does improved. And I have been pleasantly surprised over the last 3 years. But I repeat, if you're dealing with this and it like just happened to you, everything is very slow going, so you're gonna need patience. I won't be doing a YouTube video on patience because I am not good at it. I don't have much, but this tumor definitely is beating the patience into me. Yeah, so I think I just about covered everything I wanted to today in regards to my experience with facial paralysis, mistakes I made, things I learned. I really thank all of you for watching my videos, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments whether you have had experience with facial paralysis or not. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to click like, folks. And if you want to continue following my post-tumor improvements, make sure you're subscribed and ring that bell for notifications. I attempt to do it every week, but sometimes stuff happens. With all that said, I wish you all a really wonderful rest of the week, and I really do hope that until we meet again, y'all continue to take care of yourself.